Known as the mysterious mystic of the MBTI, the INFJ personality type can't help but to use their intuitive and instinctive abilities to climb their way to the most awakened and aware version of themselves. However, sometimes even this spiritual type tries to avoid the difficult but necessary lessons that come with spiritual evolution, and unfortunately, they pay the price. Welcome or welcome back, Psychos. Before we get into it, we'd love it if you liked and subscribed to our channel, as well as to click the post notification bell so you never miss a video. Alright, let's get right into it, starting with number 1. Their view on humanity can become warped. If there's one thing every INFJ has the innate draw towards, it's their need for observing, understanding, and theorizing humans. Everything from the connections people form, their individual perspectives, the strength of the ego, and the interesting places the human mind can wander to, there's nothing about the different aspects of the human experience that doesn't fascinate the INFJ. However, with such deep understanding and the captivation to dive into even the darkest facets of humanity, INFJs can certainly form a rather distrusting and wary view on relationships and interactions. However, this is only the case when this personality type doesn't take the time to simultaneously learn the whys behind the evil acts that lie within human capabilities. As a matter of fact, it's within learning about the consequences of individual traumas and unhealed emotional wounds that the INFJ finds their own spiritual passage. However, should the INFJ refuse to learn this inevitable lesson, their need for human interaction can easily be replaced with destructive self-isolation. Number 2. They bury their emotions. With a combination of extroverted feeling, introverted intuition, and introverted thinking, the INFJ doesn't always rely on their feelings towards things as their main decision-making factor. Instead, they resort to absorbing other people's emotions to fully understand the scope of the situation, while also observantly processing the facts and details through their introverted functions. So, where do their own genuine feelings of sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust go? Well, in the subconscious attempt of keeping a cool, calm, and collected exterior for the support of others and the mental equilibrium to process the facts of the matter within their own minds, the INFJ puts their feelings on the back burner. They come and go within their own awareness in the split of a second, unless they're so strong that they end up ruminating on them for an unnecessary amount of time. There's no in between. In fact, without the proper steps to spiritual and emotional evolution, the INFJ will never truly know what it's like to identify, never mind process their own emotions in a healthy manner. Ironically, the process of healing their own buried emotion is the very process that will lead to their spiritual development. Number 3. They're more likely to fall into a depression. Speaking of burying their emotions, the INFJ can become so avoidant of their feelings that they fall into a dark, numb, and regretful state of mind. They can become so consumed in avoidance of their true thoughts that instead of reacting to their undesirable outer circumstances, they begin to lead with an "it is what it is" perspective. In fact, since the INFJ type is prone to depressive episodes due to their deep thinking and philosophical views on life, it's not uncommon for their spiritual awakening to serve as their saving grace. While the INFJ's introspective nature is what allows them to be so understanding to others while also being able to live an independent life, it can certainly have its consequences. Whether they find their spiritual growth through a religion, an alternative practice, or by simply learning to go within, these sacred practices are what grounds the INFJ from their whirling and rabbit-holing thoughts. So, while the act of spiritual awakening is certainly challenging in the moments of being tested, once the INFJ has come out on the other side, the clarity and vigor for life is incompatible. Number 4. They become even more vulnerable to toxic connections. On the topic of the INFJ's distinctive extroverted feeling function that fuels their innate empathy towards other humans, it's not uncommon for the INFJ to attract the people who need their empathy the most. Whether it's in their romantic connection, their family member-based relationships, or their friendships, the INFJ can end up becoming a magnet to those who require their unwavering care and protection. And while this isn't always considered a challenging aspect of their deep care for others, at times they can end up alluring those who are only there to take advantage of the INFJ's kindness. This is where the opportunity for spiritual progression comes into play. In these rather toxic connections, the INFJ can either choose to continue giving their exploited goodwill under sheer obligation or take the more difficult path of setting firm boundaries around their spiritual energy. If the INFJ chooses not to set the appropriate limits to their kindness, they will only end up finding themselves in similar connections time and time again. They will become a forever doormat for others to walk over, and only through spiritual evolvement will they find their way out. Number 5. They never come to understand why they are the way they are. Like every personality type, the INFJ comes with their own quirks and oddities that, when combined, make them who they are. And when you dive even further, each INFJ has their own quirky traits that make them unique to who they are. However, since the basic INFJ qualities can be described as strange, peculiar, and at times even otherworldly, they're often challenged to take their journey to self-understanding a little more seriously than others. They learn from an early age that they don't necessarily fit in with their peers as seamlessly as they had hoped. And ironically, this serves as one of their first spiritual lessons. Through this outcast experience, the INFJ is challenged to go deep within themselves and slowly uncover why they are the way they are. This is the fork in the road where they can either take on a victim mentality or begin unwrapping why they feel such an avoidance to simply follow the norms, why they don't have the same viewpoints as their peers, and why they tend to think and observe so deeply. By taking the latter route, they avoid gaining the understanding and then utilizing their unique gifts. Number 6. They never reach their full potential. Speaking of their unique spiritual gifts, the INFJ is said to be one of the more spiritual MBTI types. To reach their full potential would mean to also reach their highest divinity. For the INFJ to fully avoid their spiritual evolution would ultimately result in an INFJ who hasn't quite matured into their genuine selves. In fact, this would have to be one of the most damaging and unfortunate consequences of avoiding spiritual progress for the INFJ. To be stuck in denial mode or compliant mode would not only result in the INFJ ignoring their creative abilities, their intrinsic gifts, and their calling to make the world a better place, but it would also force them to live a life rooted in disconnection from their most authentic selves. To put it simply, for the INFJ to not reach their full potential wouldn't only be a disservice to themselves, but also to the people around them. Which brings us to our last point. Number 7. In the end, they're just prolonging the process. Luckily or unluckily, depending on the way you view it, INFJs can't avoid their spiritual enlightenment journey, whether they try to or not. Although they can certainly put in the effort to dodge their spiritual lessons, they'll only find themselves confused and lost by painfully prolonging the process. And since the process of spiritual revelation is already a lengthy journey, they don't do themselves any favors by remaining ignorantly avoidant to the opportunities and chances that serve as stepping stones to ultimately become the most authentic version of themselves. So while they may experience the mentioned repercussions, in the end, their spiritual evolution is inevitable. In fact, throughout the INFJ's life, they will be continuously challenged with similar obstacles until they finally choose to get it right and learn the lesson. Whether it be the toxic connections they find themselves perpetually drawn to, the unfulfillment that comes with not following their dreams, the sadness and confusion that comes with avoiding fully getting to know themselves, or the wandering lostness that comes with navigating being one of the most misunderstood types. It's only a matter of time before they must put down their know-it-all attitude and surrender to it all. Well, psychos, that's it for today. So, have you attempted to avoid a spiritual awakening as an INFJ? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to leave us a like, share with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a video.